Hey, what's going on, guys? This is behind the scenes of our short film, Dogpatch. My name is Tristan Ray. I was the director on this project, and I just wanted to share how this film went, how we did it, where it began, and to start off, I just want to share how this story even started. I've been doing filmmaking ever since I was 13, and so I moved up from Arkansas up here to Missouri, where I live now. I live in Springfield, Missouri, and I've just always remembered the beauty of Arkansas growing up and just the landscapes and everything around it. And not a lot of filmmaking happens where I'm from in Arkansas. I had always remembered this park, Dogpatch. I'd always thought that Dogpatch would be a very, very unique place to film. And I just remembered thinking back, my parents actually grew up going to the park. And so the park, ever since the 90s, there's been no one there. I mean, there may be people that like clean it up and stuff like that, but there's really not anyone there. And so really where it really started kicking off was I started writing a script. I was working at a summer camp at the time. I was working at a camp called Kanakuk. On my side time, whenever I had time to write or do anything like that, I started writing the script because I knew as soon as camp was over, I wanted to film more. I wanted to write a short film. I wanted to direct. I wanted to do all this stuff. And I remember I had one day off, and I explored the park with a buddy of mine. And I remember getting to the park, and the first thing I thought of was trespassing. And so the way the park is formatted in the short film, if you guys haven't checked it out, there's a link in the description where you can check out our short film Dogpatch. But when you look at the shot where the drone is going over the car and there's like all these buildings right beside it, that is like on a hillside. So that's like above the park. And so I started off by exploring there first and checking that out. And I went down further. I went down into the park. So I had to, you actually have to drive if you want to get to the other side of the park, which is where mostly everything is. And so I drove down, and there was a small parking space, and there's a gate open. So I didn't really see anything obvious saying that I shouldn't be there. So I went in and parked. And so there was a certain segment of the park where nothing is really said you shouldn't be there or anything. So I explored that part. But as I got closer, I saw that it said no trespassing, video cameras going on, stuff like that. So I'm like, okay. So I left the park and I went back to camp and just did my job just like that. And so when camp was over, I went more into planning for the short film. And so school started up. I go to Evangel University. And so I started writing more about this script, but I also knew that I had to take in mind that I might not be able to use the location because of no trespassing. At Evangel, through my time at Evangel, I met a guy named Damian Costello, who has really helped me get more experience and do stuff in the film industry. And he's done a lot for me and my buddy Clayton Potter, who is DOP of this project. And so I get in contact with Damian and tell him, hey, I really feel like you're fit for the role of this officer in this film. And so I get in contact with him and explain everything to him. I explain the story. I explain that I really want him to do this, and I want him to get the acting side of everything, because Damian does a really good job behind the camera, but he also does an amazing job acting. And so I wanted this project to really be a time where he didn't have to be behind the camera. He could just do his thing and act. And obviously through this film, I think he did a really amazing job. It gets closer to shoot day. Not to shoot day, but closer to us wanting to make this project, everything like that. And so I had to find the supporting role. And the support role was this kind of quirky, goofy kind of person. And at my time at Evangel, I had watched a film called Relativity. And I remember there being a guy in that film where I'm like, literally, this guy could be the character I want. And that guy is named Tim Grassi. And so I got in contact with him, and Damien and him actually have done some projects together. So that worked out well because that acting chemistry together works really well together. And so I get in contact with him, and he's in. And I'm really excited because Damien and Tim, in the area, I think are phenomenal, and they do their jobs really well. And so we get to building up this crew, and obviously Clayton was going to be our DOP because me and him, we run Stingray Films together, and he's just super good at getting really good shots and everything. But I knew that I wanted more, from a crew. Like, this is a low budget film, very low budget, and I'm going to get into later what we shot on, how we filmed it, everything. But just know that this was really low budget, and shout out to everyone who helped on this project because it was all of their time. I mean, there was, I know, like it's kind of sad to see in the industry where there's not a lot of people getting paid to do what they love to do, but you have to start somewhere. You have to start up and build up. And so we all decided that we're going to go through with this. This is our time, but we're going to put our heart into this project. I have my script wrote. Everyone's ready to go, and I'm looking at more crew members. I need audio, and I'd like to get an assistant camera for Clayton. So going into audio, there aren't a lot of audio people in the area I'm from, and plus, honestly, for me, I don't even know a lot about audio. I'm just not good at it. We as filmmakers, we have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, and audio for me is just one of them. All of us really had a problem with audio, so I get in contact with my friend Dylan McCormick, who had just gotten new audio gear. And Dylan didn't know, he wasn't super intelligent when it came to audio specifically. I mean, we all weren't. But what I'm saying is that he had the gear, and so we got him to come along with us, and he was going to do audio. All he had to do was basically boom for us through every shot that we did. But what we did to make the task easier is we actually plugged that mic into the camera so we wouldn't have to worry as much about going into post and doing it. I'm going to tell you right now, audio is the most important thing in the film. I'm sure for the filmmakers watching this, you always hear that bad video is better than having the bad audio. An audience will react better to bad video with good audio than bad audio to good video. And so we want to make sure audio is good. So I brought my buddy Dylan, and he came along with us. And next, I had a friend on my floor, Nathan Griffey, who does a phenomenal job of cinematography. So good at it. And he has a lot of gear. So he has a GH5, he's kind of decked out, and he also has a drone and super good at drone piloting. If you watch Dogpatch, the drone shots are incredible. And so Nathan agrees to go with us, and so we had our crew. So we finally did it. We finally got the shoot day. We knew we were going to be able to film in Dogpatch, which was really, really nice. And so the hard part is that me and Nathan Griffey and a few of us others were in school, and so we had to work around school with doing this project. And so we got lucky, and we actually had a fall break where we were off Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And so we all decided that we were going to film. I believe it was that Monday and Tuesday. We wake up. It's me, Nathan Griffey, Caleb Dismore, who played the creature, and Dylan McCormick. And we pack all of our gear into my truck, which is really small. And we made our way to Harrison to meet up with Tim Grassi, Damien Costello, and Clayton Potter. We drove separately. And we decided to meet at McDonald's in Harrison just to kind of get breakfast and get things rolling. And the biggest thing on my mind was I didn't know exactly some of the things in my script spot on. And there's actually a scene that was originally in the script that didn't even make it in the Dogpatch. And I'm glad we didn't do it, but I think it would have been kind of cool to have had this added to it. But Damien's character, Officer Aiden, was going to have kind of his wife died. And so he kind of has some blame on himself and stuff like that. So there was actually going to be a scene where he was at a cemetery talking to his wife, to add a little bit of drama to it. But, we just kind of looked at that and they're like, we don't really need it. So we decided to cut that. But me, Tim, and Damien, mainly me and Tim, were kind of looking at the script over together and just kind of getting some ideas. I knew what I wanted. I knew the vision I had and everything, but there were parts of it I was kind of unsure about. And Tim was able to bring up some really cool ideas and stuff. And so I kind of brought him on with my vision of what I kind of saw. And Noah McCorder actually helped write a little bit as well. He's a buddy of mine. And we went straight from McDonald's to Eli's house. Eli was the crazy guy that was in the film that attacked Damien's character. And so Eli's a friend of mine back way back when in Arkansas. And he said, he offered up, hey, you can come film at my house, and you can even stay the night here, you and your crew. And I'm like, okay, cool. And so we get there, and we start filming the first scene where Damien gets a call in about, there's something really weird going on at the park. So we get all the shots, and I was like, okay. We were debating on our location for where Officer Aiden kind of stops at on his way to Dogpatch. And so I was debating between the Harrison Square and Grice's Food and Deli. And interesting enough, Eli had actually worked at that place before. So we talked to Eli. We're like, hey, can you talk to the owner or anything like that to see if we can film in there? He's like, yeah, sure. We get there, and in Arkansas, like I said, there's just not a lot of filmmaking, so people are kind of like, what are these people doing with cameras, It's really cool. People from Arkansas, they're really supportive and think that's kind of thing's cool. If you go to some other states, they're a lot more pickier and stuff about that, but they're super cool. And so we get in there, and the owner's like, hey, yeah, totally, you can totally film stuff in here. And I told him I put him in the credits and everything, and we did. And so we get in there and we start filming, and there are people watching us for sure. And actually, in some of the shots, the one shot we got, you can see some people kind of looking at the camera. And speaking of the one shot, I get in there and I'm like, okay, what kind of shots am I looking for? What do I want? And I look at Griffey and I look at Clayton. I'm like, guys, we're doing the one shot. And they were totally excited we were in for it. And funny enough, a lot of the crew members had cameos in this scene. You can see me bumping into Damien. And then in the background, once Damien starts walking down the aisle, you can see Dylan walk across. We didn't need audio for the shots. That's how we kind of put him in there. And then when Damien gets up to the cooler to grab something to drink, you see Clayton walk past, which when Clayton does that, he goes into the bathroom to cue Tim to come out. And so that made kind of the scene more natural. And the whole point of that scene is to show that Tim's character and Damien, they know each other, but Damien kind of is annoyed and doesn't like being around Tim's character, Clem. And so we get done in there and we go outside to film some stuff. And the scene looked a little different in the original takes we got. And so what happened was we had gotten like halfway done, but as all of us filmmakers know, as soon as we start getting done, or when we start filming, there's so much noise everywhere, like lawnmowers, everything. But in this case, it was like the air conditioning kicking in, and you can hear the noise. And so we had to completely redo the dialogue and everything. And so we did it on the side of Grice's Food and Deli. And so it was my first time to really get to see Tim Grassie's character, Clem, and he did a really phenomenal job at that. And I remember as soon as he got done talking with Damien, and that after that they go to the car. We actually used Damien's car. We just faked it to where you don't ever see a shot of the car, so you don't ever know it's actually the same vehicle, because we didn't have another vehicle that had like a trunk or anything like that, and I wanted that shot really bad. And so we used Damien's car again and faked it. I remember we got to the part where Officer Aiden asked, what's the difference between a shriek?
I mean, especially with all that shrieking and wailing going on.
What's the difference?
And I remember just everyone losing it after Tim said, he just started screaming and stuff to like make a point.
I mean, with all the shrieks and wailing.
What's the difference?
Sorry.
The camera bag's in the background. It's okay. It's all right. We'll cut that.
I was in the middle between Griffey and Clayton, and I just looked at both of them, and they were dying. And as soon as I called cut, they just lost it, and so that was really funny to watch. And if you notice, there's a part where Officer Aiden's like,
looks like a muffler.
it's kind of funny. We didn't really know what prop we were going to use for like the metal, and so I had this thing in the back of my truck, which I think was my muffler. I don't think it's my muffler, but we used that, but we added that in just to kind of give some comedy element to it. So this film overall had, like, the script was there, but there was some improv stuff here and there. And so we had gotten done at Grice's Food and Deli. We were feeling good, and so we decided to take a dinner break, and we wrapped for lunch. So we made it to the park. We had just gotten done eating our lunch/dinner, and we had first gotten there, parked in the same spot that I did whenever I was on my day off for that camp. We get there, and we walk around for a little bit, and we explore more into it, and we notice that, like, someone's actually living there, which we assumed it was Bud Pelser. And so we start walking. I can't remember if this was that night or if it was that morning, but our first time getting in there, we actually just heard like a bunch of honking, and then Bud yelling, "Hey, this is private property, like, who's there?" It was funny. Damien's like, "This is Damien Costello. I called you on the phone." He's like, "Oh, cool." And he completely changed. It was kind of funny, but a lot of people go to Dogpatch without asking for permission and stuff, and it can kind of be bothersome, but he's super cool about it. And so he showed us around a little bit of the park and everything. And we had a bunch of... There's so many different ways we could have shot Dogpatch. It's really cool because there were so many different buildings. But there's footage that didn't make it into the film. It made it in one of the trailers, actually. It's in the final trailer. But we originally started filming the scenes that are at Dogpatch that night because we thought we could get done, but the daylight just burned on us. And so we started off filming that chase scene where Officer Aiden chases the hooded person, which we find out later is a creature, alien, whatever you got out of it. But yeah, he's chasing them, and I really like the shots, but the shots that came from the next day I like better because of the lighting we had from the sun and everything. But we ended up just being like, hey, it was kind of cool to get a good idea what we wanted, but let's come back tomorrow and just knock it out because this is the final scene we have. And so we decided to take that time and look around what would be the best spot. And so if you notice in the footage that we didn't put in the film, they're running the opposite way from the bridge. So we decided that instead of doing that, they should go the other way because it leads into some more buildings, almost like the creature's trying to hide somewhere or something like that. The spot just fit better, and I personally liked it because Damien was going to stop the creature there, but not only that, there are two more paths, which is where Tim ends up meeting him, and Eli's character ends up meeting him. So they kind of all three come together, and that's how they kind of end up where they're at. And so that's what I liked about it. And so we got done shooting that, but one thing that kind of scared us was Tim. Tim actually didn't know if he wanted to stay or go back home because he didn't know like if he had the time or anything like that. And so we were kind of like, oh crap. But Tim was a champ, and actually Tim, Dylan, Clayton, and Damien stayed in a motel in Harrison, and it turned out to be pretty cheap for him, which is nice. And they went there straight after we got done at Dogpatch, and then me, Griffey, and Caleb stayed with Eli. And literally Dogpatch, the Project Dogpatch, is probably the funnest experience I've ever had because so much funny stuff happened. I remember me and Caleb and Griffey got to Eli's house, and Eli wasn't even there. I think we dropped him off at a friend's house or something like that. He was like, hey, just stay at my house, you're totally fine. We get there are a butt ton of spiders. I mean, so many. And I remember putting it on our Instagram stories and stuff like that. How many spiders were down there. I just remember Griffey saying, this is the first time I've ever slept with my shoes on. And I remember Caleb had his boots, and anytime he'd shake them, flies would fly out. It's just kind of funny. But it's an experience that we'll never forget. So, we had just woken up from Eli's house and survived the spiders, luckily enough. And I remember waking up and I didn't see Eli still there. And I remember leaving. I'm like, well, I was going to put Eli in this film, but I guess that's just going to fall through and we're going to have to figure out something else. And so we leave and we go to the top of Dogpatch. And I remember we didn't see Tim, Damien, or Clayton there, and Dylan. And so we decided to go back down and check and see if they were down there because we were meeting up with them. And on our way down, we just see Eli pass us, just honking his horn and stuff. He's like, hey, wait. Like, it's just kind of funny. He just followed us and stuff. And so I guess this whole time he was at his house. And so we get the whole crew together. And we had scouted everything from yesterday, so we were pretty prepared. And so we start at the top of Dogpatch where we see the car pull up by like the train where the carts go up and then down into Dogpatch. So we get there and we look around a little bit and then we start filming, and we've got maybe 6 hours because of work schedules and stuff like that. And I remember it was kind of funny. We were exploring and we actually found a safe and it was locked, and we didn't know how to get into it, but that's always been stuck in my mind. The people that the crew that was with me on this, they may remember it, but I've never forgot about that safe. So hey, if you're down in Dogpatch, go and see what's in that safe if you can get into it. But anyway, we start filming, and keep in mind, I wanted to mention this. We were filming on a GH5 and we were filming on a Blackmagic, and we got some amazing shots out of the GH5. We got really good lens flares. I used the Blackmagic. I told Clayton to kind of use the Blackmagic for some wider shots. The GH5 had a zoom lens, so it was kind of easy to like go in and out. So we used those two cameras, and I remember the shot where you see Tim with the object. It's in a lot of trailers too, where he's going over the floorboard. Griffey went 100% on that shot. He actually like lifted up the floorboard and went down in there and filmed the shot, and that shot looks amazing. So really up there was really quick. We got everything that we needed up there done really quick. And I also remember we used Eli's truck as like, that clue that someone's in the park when Officer Aiden shows up. And I remember we were gonna like put smoke into it, and I remember we had pizza boxes that we had, we'd eaten food and stuff. And I remember Damien be like, hey, let's burn the box and see if we can make a practical fire. And it did not go well. So that was kind of another funny thing that happened. So we get down into the real part of the park, and I remember thinking to myself how I want to direct my actors. And so I told Clayton, Clayton's really good at directing as well, and Clayton has his crew and I split up with my crew. So Clayton basically is kind of like an assistant director at this point. And so Clayton has Tim and he has Caleb, and then I have everyone else. And so the beginning shots you see were actually filmed that day, and Clayton filmed those. And then I had Griffey with me, and I remember me and Griffey trying to come up with some really cool shot ideas for whenever we see Aiden and then he turns and looks and sees the building. And actually Griffey was wanting to do a Dutch shot on that. It didn't turn out like we wanted to, but we were originally going to do Dutch on that. And I remember we got inside and we went upstairs, and I saw this room that's kind of closed off and you can't really see much when you walk up there. And Eli, the fight scene kind of popped in my mind. It wasn't even in the script. And so I had this idea where I told Damien, hey, you're going to walk up these stairs. All you know is that someone's going to attack you. That's it. And so I told Eli to hide, and when I called action, kind of wait and count to a certain period of time and then just pop out. And that's where we get Damien's really cool reaction of seeing Eli for the first time. And we had gotten done both of us had gotten done, my crew, Clayton's crew, and that's where we got into the drone shot, and we actually had 20% of battery left on that drone. And so I'm really thankful we got that shot, because that's actually like one of our iconic shots, I guess you could say, and Griffey did a really good job on that drone shot. And we got that drone shot. We get into the building part, and I remember being exhausted. As a director, you always want to be able to be up and ready, and that's where I started to drain a little bit. And me and Clayton work really well together, and I saw him kind of like pop up sometimes like, hey, action. It was kind of funny. But we had like maybe an hour left, and we had some dialogue we had to cut into there, so we got that done, and we were set. And so we spent maybe another hour just exploring the park, just to have some fun and check some things out. And we took a few photos. We found this really cool bridge that used to be there and still is there. And so yeah, Dogpatch was a really fun experience, and it's a short film I will never ever forget. And I'm looking forward to being able to film more projects like this for sure, and getting to work with people who really do care about making a film and stuff. And once we got done, I imported all that footage, and we made sure we wanted to film in 4K, and it was an amazing experience. And shout out to everyone who helped make this possible, the crew and the locations that we had. And later on, I remember I had made a trailer for Dogpatch, and it just so happened that Damien was in a film called Emily, and a lot of good people that worked on that film as well. And so we went to the showing of that, which was at the Paddle Wheel, and we actually had the opportunity of showing the first trailer there. And I just remember people being like, oh, this is really cool and everything. And Dogpatch really has shaped my career and everyone else that did this. Like, it's just different, and I'm really excited that we got to do it. I mean, we got to film at a place that, like, not a lot of people know about, honestly. If you look up Dogpatch, I mean, there's a few things here and there, but, like, not everyone knows about Dogpatch. There's some really interesting locations that are down in Arkansas. There's a lot of abandoned places, and so we got really lucky to be able to film there. And currently, actually, the government owns Dogpatch, and so Bud isn't really there anymore. And so we've gotten comments on Dogpatch on whether or not there's going to be a second one. There could potentially be a second one. There potentially could be. There's a lot of factors that go into it, budget, and if we can have Dogpatch. And so we can just hope and pray that there could be a second one, or we can just leave it be, make it a mystery. It's kind of cool just the way it is. And so this was an amazing experience, and again, shout out to everyone that helped make this project happen. And if you haven't checked out Dogpatch yet, definitely check it out. It was really fun to do. And let us know what you think. Comment what we could have done better, what you liked, or anything like that. Thank you guys for watching. This was behind the scenes of Dogpatch.